Welcome to Man Down Podcast. My name is Ted Knutson, and we are here to fuck up your life in the best way. Thank you for listening to us. Subscribe, like anywhere that you can possibly see us, and tell your friends. Today, we are going to talk about porn, technology, and the future of intimacy. This is a topic that is loaded. It is charged with so much nonsense and misinformation. Patrick wanted to cut through the bullshit and give you some practical thoughts about how you should be thinking about porn, where you can gauge whether you have a problem with it, and also like how to go forward and talk to your partners about this. And then he wanted to talk a little bit, because he's, a bit kinky, about the future of porn and tech and sexuality. So that's what we're going to do today. Don't be too horrified like I was. So I was shopping in the US and I was replenishing some of my t-shirts. And can you see?
I was about to ask this. So Dolly,
Yes.
surrounded by butterflies.
Yeah.
What age Dolly do you think she is there?
So she is much like an Asian grandma, impossible to tell what her actual age is at any particular point in her career. I'm going to guess that's 50s or 60s, maybe.
But it could be like, it could be months ago.
It could be.
Dolly has such stability. Like it's like Salma Hayek, where she's now looked the same for like 20 years. But I think also with Dolly, like her good works keep her young.
Yes.
Every time I see a picture of her from the 70s or the early 80s, I think I forget every time how fucking bad Dolly Parton was, man. She is unbelievable.
I saw something of her like on the Tonight Show, which is used to be US, so late night TV, and it probably was early 80s, late 70s. And I watched her and like, my God, she's just the most charming, attractive woman and spectacular and clever, and obviously, good works as well. So we are Dolly stans on this.
We are Dolly stans. This is like an alternative thing to reading a book by a woman on the tube. Like the other day, I said to my wife, I just sat on the tube carriage with my glasses on, reading a book by a woman for like 25 minutes. So I'm pretty certain I'm the hottest guy on this tube carriage right now. Right now. Which is a very male manipulator thought to have, I guess.
We had we don't get a lot of social media comments, but there was one about the age gap relationships from Comedy Cougar, who decided to take shots at me about whether I was even remotely attractive or not, and then like sugar daddy and things like that, because obviously an age gap brief comment as opposed to the giant podcast that we did around the whole thing. I thought it was funny. I was like, oh wow, it appears that I've offended some grumpy old incel in the Instagram comments.
Well, she might be a MILF. You don't want to piss off the MILFs.
I usually try to attract the MILFs. Yes, I understand.
Me too. You don't hunt the MILFs. You just attract the MILFs.
I'm a little scared of hunting the MILFs. That doesn't feel that safe these days. Also, it's a genre that the SEO's ruined for it. So
this is all good. We can put all this in the metadata, right? Like this will drive clicks.
How was your shagging holiday?
Very kind of you to call it that. Horrifying.
Your wife was. I'm sure this flowed back to you, right? She's like, I said this when I saw the first photo show up on Instagram on your wife's feed, and she's like, she just gave me skulls, like many skulls across there. So apparently, you were both horrified by it.
She was like, I need to send Ted an emoji that shows I'm revolted by this, but that doesn't offend him. and I was just like, you won't offend him. It's not really possible. Like, he'll take great pleasure in having made you uncomfortable.
And any sort of response would have been, in the ballpark of what I was expecting.
Yeah, man. It was great, actually. It was great. It's my first time in Copenhagen. And I had a great time. I ate a lot of hot dogs. I knew that a hot dog was like a go-to snack, but it was sick because I was surrounded by, like old people. I made this point to somebody the other day that I went and queued for a hot dog, and there was a lady behind me in the queue who was probably 65, dressed up really nicely, like smart, kind of attractive older woman who was then just like scranning a hot dog outside a train station, standing up. And I thought, yeah, this is the kind of nation I can get behind. Also, I was lied to about how tall everyone was. They
Okay.
were normal size. They
They
were
are normal
completely
size.
normal size.
Yeah, you have to go across the bridge to get
Yeah,
to the tall people. Like
I'm not going across the
Swedes are
bridge.
tall and Dutch are extremely tall. Netherlands is
Mm,
the only country where, like in Europe anyway, where I feel like small. And I'm just like,
sure.
how did all you people get this big? This is crazy. This is like
But
when
that's
I walk
because
around Japan.
oh sure. I mean, yeah, but I mean, when I walk around Japan, I'm just like fucking enormous here, guys. But like but in the Netherlands, there's no space to kind of expand sideways, so
Let's go
everything
up.
just has to go up. Like it's like the only choice.
I
I
suspect their birth rate's pretty good too. Then
imagine so. How was your break?
good minus the COVID.
Sure. Was that just
uh,
at the end, or was that the whole time?
so my son picked it up at this festival. 16 years old. He went to his first festival by himself with his friends. He camped
Mm,
as well, which is like a lot.
adorable.
And yeah, so he went to a thing called Boardmasters, which happens down in Newquay every year.
Okay.
And I went to see a bunch of bands that are pretty middling. Like I was not impressed. I think next year he's sort of has his eyes on better bands, but I'm not sure. Like it might be a friend gravitational pull.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I came back and like then I drove him to the airport and he's like coughing and hacking the whole time. And I was like, you gonna be all right there?
no.
He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Just got a cold. No, it wasn't a cold. It turns out that his friends started to test positive for COVID. And so
Oh,
we
God.
got stuck with that. So that was at the beginning of the holiday. And then
Oh,
obviously there's an
tremendous.
incubation period. And I was pretty rough for a while. So for those of you who are at all on the fence and interested in taking the sort of flu booster jab with combined with COVID, this strain is rough. I've had COVID probably 6 times now.
Jesus.
I get it every year, and I had
That's a lot of COVID. I've had COVID like twice.
when you travel the world and you interact with people
Oh, here
all
we
the time,
go.
like
Oh
you
my
tend to
God.
pick up a lot of
Oh my
COVID.
God. I'm just too much of a jet setter. I just get COVID all the
You
Jesus
wait. You wait
Christ.
until I share like my new thing that I've discovered. Like you'll hear the
Uh-oh.
same sort of thing. Anyway, so yes, it was great minus the COVID. It was also a bit hot when we went to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
33 degrees highs the days that we were there. It was originally
Woof.
scheduled for like 27, 28. I was like, oh, that's awesome. 27, 28. That'd be great.
Mm.
It was fucking melting when we were standing in some of those lines. So otherwise, kids had a great time. Grandparents had a great time. And I survived. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. I mean, with your son's music taste, do you even try to nudge him towards better stuff, or will that just send him running in the opposite direction? Like, is there any kind of like hand on the tiller that you can do here? I ask this as somebody with young children.
For my older two children, I have never in history of the world been able to influence them in any way about
Mm,
things that I think are great, even though it is tailor made for their specific personality and what they will like. And usually what happens is years later, their friends will discover it and then they'll suggest it to them. And then they'll be like, this is awesome. I was like, I literally
mm,
told you about this 4 years ago. And we had this conversation like just in the last year. I was like, no one in your life will think about you more than your mom and dad do. And we think about you all the time in your entire life. Maybe your partner that you marry will think about you this often. And so when we recommend stuff to you, it's because we know you better than anybody else. And we think about the things that you like and don't like more than anyone
yeah.
else in the world. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine. Thanks, Dad. And just like, and so my son, there have been times that they have taken some things on board, but particularly with like things that I know that he'll love. I managed to get Arsenal in through the door before
Mm,
he locked that down. So like Arsenal and Star Wars were two things that came through that door. But everything
okay.
else, I'm like, dude, read these books, like play these games, read these comic books, like you'll love them. And the only way that it happens is either via natural selection or his friends introduce it to him. With the band stuff, we did listen to a lot of hip hop things, but then he ended up
Sure.
liking more modern hip hop, which I'm not like a huge fan of because I think most of it's absolutely terrible.
Okay.
And then the band stuff, he's just recently started to listen to bands. And so, but like nothing that I could introduce into his life. It's only things
Hmm.
that come
Hmm.
by his friends or his own
Yeah.
research.
You got to incept him. You got to find a way to like subconsciously push him towards cool shit. But like I know what you mean about not being able to influence them because like my older daughter's 4 and she is
There
ungovernable.
you
She
go.
cannot be disagreed with in any
Ungovernable.
meaningful. I've got no control over her, man. Like honestly, today she just decided she wasn't putting her socks on, and we just had a standoff for like half an hour. And I honestly, if she were an adult, I'd have done like a pile driver on her. Honestly, I was so angry. But at the moment, all we do is watch K-pop Demon Hunters every single night.
I am on the hook voluntarily for watching
Mhm.
that with my 10-year-old when we have our next weekend together. I was like, Kaya, you and I are going to watch K-pop Demon Hunters together. She's like,
Mhm.
yes, Dad. Yes, I love this. And she is the one child that I have been able to influence in any particular direction. But also part of it is I will actively opt into the silly things that they're into.
Sure, but like I was into it the first time. I was into it the third time. But Ted.
Now you're in frozen
But Ted.
status.
And it's like, and also it's never like the whole thing, right? It's never like we watch it and the next day we watch 20 minutes and the next day we watch 20 minutes. Every time it's, I want to watch the beginning. I want to watch the beginning. And I was like, why don't we watch to the end and achieve, story catharsis? Like, why don't we do that? No,
I
no,
kind of do
Papa.
that with
We're
The Dark
going
Knight,
to the
though.
beginning. Okay.
I really like the bank heist scene, and occasionally I like the scene where he's like walking out of the hospital.
I get that. There are lots of films like that. Like, so the first hour of The Social Network, for example, I think is so like miraculously good. And the second hour is good, but like the first hour is unreal. And I think that's quite often the case. But with this, I just think I'm not quite sure it is. Honestly, most of it, she's kind of in this zone at the moment where older girls, especially with, pink or purple hair,
Yeah.
that to her is like where that's like a meeting with a goddess for her. And so now she asked for her hair to be done like girls in the K-pop Demon Hunters. And I was just like, look, I don't care. You can dye your hair pink or purple when you're older. I really don't care. Just let me watch the last half hour of this motherfucking film, instead of the first 20 minutes again and again. But yeah, I don't know. She'll probably be speaking fluent Korean in a year or two's time, I assume.
Did you know that the U.S. has theater sing-alongs for this now?
What, K-pop
They're
Demon
renting out
Hunters?
theaters. Yeah, they're renting out theaters for sing-alongs.
All right. Okay. I'm fine with that. Whatever. It's better than Mamma Mia. I bet you're a Mamma Mia guy, actually. You love Mamma Mia.
Don't we have a show to do? Like, what are we going to talk about today? Where are we starting?
Oh my god, what an evasion! Yeah, okay. So today we
I have an Amanda Seyfried thing. Okay, like let's just leave that alone.
I can't get into this again.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to derail this even further than we started. Started with Dolly over here. Like, we're good.
We can't do the Seyfried career retrospective. Okay, so today we thought that we'd talk about some topics that have been coming up in questions and stuff brought to us by our listeners. Okay, and they wanted us to talk a little bit more about porn and also about the stuff that goes beyond porn. So right now we're seeing a real efflorescence of VR porn, of AI getting involved in porn, AI sex dolls, like all this kind of stuff. And it's an interesting question to think about, like how is this going to shape human sexuality? Because already, we're kind of in this zone already where there have been major generational changes in the ways that people have sex.
Oh my God.
Porn is still pretty young within that as well. Okay. Is this your they peg it out?
Wow, you're just you bottled all this up for a couple of weeks, haven't you? This is just like stored, ready to burst.
Yeah.
No, I was agreeing. Like, I think that human sexuality has changed, like, just almost exponentially in just the last few years. And not to say that like all of these traits didn't exist before, because often we go back into historic examples of how all this shit's been around for a long time. But the prevalence of information and the diversity of information and the fact that people are like very happy to sort of like settle into their niches in sexual ways and then also like sort of filter out from there is kind of wild, and it feels unprecedented in many ways. And then obviously you add technology, and then you add potentially new technology and robots.
And we've just got so little perspective on it, right? Like internet porn comes along and then you have a phone in your pocket that you can watch porn on, and it feels like whenever you might be getting to the point where maybe you could try and look back through the data and try and get a sense of trends, it feels like some new huge change comes along, which alters things still further.
Do you know what feels as big as porn or bigger? sex toys,
Mm,
and for women
sex toys,
especially.
sure.
And the fact that, like, I mean, this is part of the right wing male bullshit thing, that where women
Mm,
don't actually need men anymore because they're better capable of satisfying themselves via toys.
mm.
And so this is part of what we'll talk about, I think, in a minute, where you're talking about AI and sex dolls and all the above. But the fact that women have ready access, there's no stigma about it across most cultures
Sure.
now, um, is a dramatic change of gears. And yeah, it's, I mean, I think for most people who are normal, it's probably pretty exciting, but plenty of people are taken aback by it and probably a little bit overwhelmed or intimidated.
We'll wait till they hear about the Victorians and their steam powered dildos. Like, I mean, to
I've
me,
seen that kink.com channel. That's a lot.
sorry, what is there like steampunk porn?
Well, not steampunk porn, but
I bet there fucking is though.
there was
People with their
definitely
goggles on, flying
I'm
hot air balloons with their dicks out.
getting bent over the back of a balloon. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I meant sex machines, which is sort of the idea of steam powered porn. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Please continue. This is,
This
I
Jordan
feel like this is
Peterson
like
shit.
endless, instead of endless rakes, this is endless landmines for me. I'm going to get in so much trouble.
Sure, man. Like, okay, to me, that whole thing where you get the kind of right wing male commentator saying, "Oh, women are going to try and push men out of existence because now they have vibrators." Like that is such a male. That's such an idiot man's understanding of sex as well. That he's just like, well, sex as we know is entirely about orgasm and nothing else at all. So if a woman could do that by herself, why would she need me? And you're like, why indeed? Like, why would she need? Why would she need you? Like, that's an excellent question. But porn is really interesting because I think that, they talk about that, the doorstep question or the threshold question that doctors get, where they come in and they say, oh, this is going on. And then as they're turning to leave the room, they say, and actually there's this other thing.
Yeah.
And that's the real thing. I find that in therapy, men coming to therapy, genuinely the vast majority of men, I mean like 70% probably, they come in for one issue, one principal issue, but as a secondary or tertiary issue, they will have their porn use. They're really worried about it. And especially the men who date women are really worried about it, because then I think there's loads of stuff that comes in about judgment, and it's, oh, my partner is offended by this, or my partner sees it as, if not infidelity, then in some way siphoning sexual energy away from the relationship. And all that stuff is really difficult because I have to go with a client when they say there is this thing in my life that I want to change. But quite often when we start with things like porn, the first thing I have to say is, well, it's actually completely fine for you to watch pornography. Like,
Yeah. So
there's
this
normal
is
things
such
you
a,
want to do.
the first two words that I thought of are both problematic, but I'm like, this is such a meaty topic. And then I was like, wait, this is such a fertile, oh fuck.
This is such a juicy issue.
It's just spurting all over us. Yes, I love even the little bits of this because it feels like we need to reset the baseline, and the internet conversation around the baseline, or even your conversation with your partners around the baseline, is just dramatically wrong. Like horribly, overwhelmingly, dramatically fucking wrong for what we should be viewing this as. So let's go, because this part I love, and this part I think like people need to have a better grounding of it, because you need the talking points on this shit. When your partner comes to you and is like, oh, well, you're watching porn, so this is infidelity, you're cheating on me. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, so the last time that you read some smut, whether it's on Substack or like on one of those fairy books where somebody's getting bent over and rogered, either for or against their will, like, is that cheating on me? Because I'm pretty sure it's the exact same fucking category. It's just that you don't have a visual cue for your sexuality and I do. And that thing makes me angry, because that is a double standard that is totally fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, like my orgasms are intellectual.
Yeah, yeah. Go
my
fuck
orgasms
yourself.
hold martini glasses. Your orgasms are like beer swilling morons.
Well, and go fuck yourself doesn't really do anything for us, because they just will with the sex toys. But that's okay.
The start.
That's okay.
But I think, yeah, okay. So I think so I actually remember having a conversation with my now wife, like relatively early on in our relationship, where I said, you need to know that, like, I will watch porn sometimes, and that I think masturbation is completely normal. And in fact, there's lots of evidence that masturbation is good for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with I want somebody other than you, or I don't want to have sex with you. I want to do this. I was like, you got to understand that there's a kind of, it's like sometimes you eat something because you need to eat something before you go for a run, and other times you have a nice meal with your partner. Like these are different things, they're fulfilling different functions. And I'm really glad we had that conversation early on,
Mm-hmm.
because it means that she understood that it, in the nicest possible way, it had nothing whatsoever to do with her. And I always was reminded as well of that, when you were talking of that Jerry Seinfeld thing, about my mum would say that you're gonna ruin your appetite. It doesn't matter. There's another appetite coming along right
Yes.
behind it. And that's how I feel about this. It's just like, I've got more of these. I've got more in the tank. You don't run out of bullets.
So I will say there is a
Uh-oh.
threshold here on this one. Nothing to do with me,
This is
but
true.
I did talk to somebody, and somebody like a long time ago, and they were like, "Yeah, my partner finds it difficult to climax with me," and I was like, "Okay,"
Sure.
and she's like, "I we had a conversation about it because like it was making me feel bad." And what I found out was that he was masturbating 7 times a day. And I was like, "Did you talk to him about masturbating less than 7 times a day?" She's like, "I did. I did. We tried
Mm.
to scale it down dramatically, and now he can climax with me, and I feel much better about all of this." And I was like, there is a
Right.
threshold at which you will take away from some of the appreciation for your partner might have for sex with you. So just be careful about that. This is everything in moderation. 7 might a day is a lot.
Well, yeah, because then you end up with like arms like Hellboy. You've got like one
Just
normal
one.
sized one and one absolute fucking claw. But I mean, look, to take it seriously, obviously there is a level of porn use that is harmful. Like, we know that high level porn use functions like any other kind of addiction, right? Like, it stimulates your dopamine production. It can numb other sources of pleasure. And when people quit, it causes all sorts of discomfort, like
Mhm.
sleep disturbance, elevated heart rate, like all the stuff that we would see in quitting other kinds of drugs, all sorts of emotional distress as well. And actually, there are some interesting studies that have been done quite recently on stuff that we might have thought had nothing to do with it. So, tests on college students who described themselves as being addicted to porn showed that they had lower accuracy, they were slower competing cognitive tests, like all these sorts of things. So maybe there might be other stuff baked into that. Maybe there's sleep deprivation and all this other stuff. But it is quite worrying. And so, yes, of course, there is a level at which porn use is a problem. I think that most people should really be able to tell when that is. If you're having to, and there are questionnaires you can go and do online, actually. So if you are worried about that, you can search. I'll try and find the name of the questionnaire. um Problematic pornography consumption scale. If you Google that, you will find little quizzes that can help you work out where your porn use ranks. So if, for example, you're canceling plans so that you can go home and watch porn.
Again, bring this back to a baseline though. Most of you are probably fine. Don't think that like we're immediately
Yeah, yeah,
diagnosing
yeah.
you as problematic. We're actually saying like most people are totally fine about this, and it is a normal part of life. People have been masturbating to things that are porn or are like porn for a very, very long time. People have had, problematic masturbation habits for a very long time as well. We have heard those stories like, back
Mm.
into the as long as things have been reported. So yeah, reset the baselines around this, and please continue, because as you said, like there are so many different little bits about this that deserve some level of conversation. um there is more porn available than there's ever been. Like in my days when I was a teenager growing up, like you had to get lucky to find a magazine or a VHS tape somewhere that somebody had, and you're like, oh, this is
Mm.
incredible, I've never seen these things before. And yeah, nowadays, like literally everything that you could possibly imagine and sometimes more is available on the internet. Although I will be, not everything is available. It is if you know the right place to search. I'm bringing this back to my initial college roommate. This was back in 1994. I
Okay.
didn't know to lock my computer screen, And this guy had an older brother, and I don't know, they'd been to the depths of the horrible parts of the internet in the earliest days, like right from the start. So I come back one time, and my desktop has been changed to a horse having sex with a woman, which
Oh, sure.
I did not know was like a thing that had ever been filmed before. And then another time it was a scat photo, which I also did not realize was a thing that existed. You know, the 17-year-old me who's just gone to university, grew up in farm country, and knew none of these things, was very quickly educated by this incredibly deviant and mischievous roommate that I had.
You grew up in farm country, but you'd never heard of anyone having sex with a horse. Okay.
Yeah, no, I hadn't. I'll be honest.
I mean,
I was new to me.
I do remember at school we had a big thing going around at one point where whenever you had to send somebody a link, you would send them lemon party or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Like that was extremely common. And there was, you know, there's a little lineup of those that you could send to people. I don't want to list them here, but they were
not
and
because we have young impressionable people that will occasionally log into this. Don't do this to your friends, because you will get in trouble at school. So please just avoid that.
But to go back to that scale thing, I do think that's worth doing for exactly the point that we're talking about. Like, so many people, I think, they don't know what other people's pornography habits are. They just don't know. And if you go and do one of those questionnaires, you will quickly realize, oh no, I don't do this or that. I don't, you know, cancel plans so that I can watch porn, or I don't like cry myself to sleep if I can't watch porn. Like there are these things I think will give you a sense of where your use is. And you've got to face the fact as well that when porn is talked about in the public sphere, it's very rarely talked about in an even-handed way. Like that, it almost always has a judgmental tone to it, or it will be about some particularly scandalous extreme of porn. It will be about violent porn. Or, for example, I read an article on the BBC, I think it was last year, and it was about the rise of incest porn. And then when you read the article, what they were mostly talking about is like kind of stepmom porn.
Exactly.
And I was like, this isn't incest. All this is a slight taboo. And a slight taboo is the heart of almost all porn. Like, that is where porn comes from. That's why, for a lot of people, their most erotic memories of pornography are, you know, the magazine that they saw that they shouldn't have seen when they were 14. Like, that is a completely normal impulse. And on top of that, there are very obvious positive cases for porn. Like, for one, more sexual knowledge. Release of tension. Like, everybody has done that. Everybody has needed that to go to sleep sometimes. That is completely normal. There's sexual gratification for people who can't have sex, whether permanently or temporarily. For LGBTQ people as well, who may live in a place where there aren't out people like them, then they can go and watch porn of those people. Like, I think it would be incredibly hard to argue that that's a bad thing. And to go back to masturbation, we have lots of evidence that masturbation is good for you. You know, there's the comfort with your body, stress release, this sort of thing. Learning what you like so that you can have a more satisfying sexual experience when you are having sex with someone else. So in all these respects, I think it's good. And then on top of that, in your relationship, and this I think is the most important one, it can be a really useful erotic tool, and it can be a useful form of communication. Here's what I like. Here are some things we can try. Let's watch this together. All this stuff can bring couples together, and we are constantly sold this idea that porn is breaking our relationships apart and making it impossible for us to connect to one another. I just don't think that's true, except in the way that, you know, alcohol can do that as well, right?
Right.
But we don't go on about it in the media quite as much.
So let's talk about this in a healthy relationship perspective, because I think that's actually really important for people to understand. So first of all, like, anyone being sexually stimulated by something that they encounter, like anything they encounter, let's take it out of porn and take it into the realm of things that can make you sexually excited. That is actually the category that we're talking about here. Now, as you've said, porn tends to get the negative end of the stick, and women in particular are like, well, if you're looking at porn, then like it could be cheating, construed as cheating on me, or infidelity, or you're thinking about someone else, or you want to fuck someone else, and like you're spending this sexual energy time with someone else. But most of the time in healthy sexual relationships, especially with two people that have moderate or high libidos, the porn time is for when like you're not able to be with your partner. Or
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to have sex by yourself, which is totally valid. And everybody goes through that. Sometimes you're like, I just like to have time inside of my own mental space as opposed to
Mm.
actually having to worry about your pleasure, your comfort, any of that stuff. Like that is also a healthy perspective. And if you come into a relationship understanding these things and also understanding that you're kind of excited that your partner is interested and sexually excited by other things that are not
Mm.
necessarily you, because one, you talk about, hey, what are your fantasies? Like, what haven't you done? What might you be interested in doing? Like, it opens up a whole world of things that you can then achieve together as part of your relationship, and then it also teaches you a ton about what they are interested in, and you have to
Mm.
have very honest discussions about it, though, in that you're saying this part is pure fantasy. I'm not actually interested in it. Sometimes I will look at it because it's taboo, and we get excited by looking at taboo in exactly the same way that you said. But then these other things I look at because I'm very interested in bringing them into my sex life and I haven't had the opportunity to do so before, or it's just the thing that turns me on the most. Those are all healthy perspectives around this. But when a partner, and it has happened regularly, including in my past relationship, says, "Oh, well, porn feels like you're cheating on me." Like that feels like a deeply unfair statement, and it feels like a complete misunderstanding of human sexuality and probably an insecurity about your partner and how they view sex with you or just in general.
Yeah, I think a large part of this is just ick factor prejudice, some puritanism, the way it was talked about when you were young. And I think there as well, so often this is the first step when somebody comes to therapy, right? Like I say, well, so what is the issue here? What is it the type of porn that you're watching? Has your partner seen it? Is there something that could really worry them in it? That it might be particularly violent or something. Okay. Is this coming from you, really? Is there some shame attached to this? Or
Mm.
do you use porn at when you're in moments of particular stress, and maybe you also detach a bit from your partner? So your partner might be responding to the detachment rather than to the porn use. Or do you just need to sit down and have a conversation with your partner about what porn means to you relative to what they mean to you?
Yeah.
Like to me, that's always like the starting point, because otherwise I think we're all just making claims and counterclaims and talking about our feelings, but we're not really getting to the meat of the matter, which is how does this truly affect our relationship?
Right. And the honest answer is like it should be a comfortable part of your relationship either way. Your partner
Mm.
doesn't have to participate in it, but plenty of times your partner is participating in sexual material via a different material. So they're not watching video, but maybe they're listening to sexy audiobooks. Maybe they listen to,
Mm.
ASMR podcasts or something like that. Maybe they're reading things that are sexually stimulating to them. That's totally fine. No one judges them for that. I
Mm.
Maybe once in a rare while you'll see book talk be like, you know what, your book reading habit is pretty foul and filthy. Like, do you
Sure.
do you read anything of substance at all? But no, like then usually porn is judged harshly, and that it's judged by men. But men are not the only ones who watch it, and I know plenty of
Mhm.
women who are comfortable in discussing what they watch and potentially sharing that with their partners as well.
Well, and a big part of this anti-porn movement too is now kind of male only, right? Like there are people in relationships with women where they might need to have a conversation about it. This is what I see mostly in therapy. But then there's stuff like the no fap thing, and there's an r/semen retention subreddit.
This is not a Navy recruiting space, is it?
Would that not be incredible?
This is for all of naval HR.
Do you ever take on what this is though? What this is about? Like it seems to be like this idea that we can somehow like maximize our masculine energy or something by filling our bodies up with cum. Like I just don't really get it.
It sounds directly related to the way that fighters, are not allowed to have sex, or, in the old time, boxing training regimes, you're not allowed to have sex for like 6 weeks while you're in training for a fight. You've got to save up all that rage and aggression. And
Sure.
and I guess that, the right wing bro culture is like, you got to save up all the rage and aggression for the rest of the world because I don't fucking know, but you're not getting sex. So there you go. I don't get it.
This is like, do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but when David Cameron's advisors were briefing that they were sending him into meetings when he really needed a piss, because they thought that he'd get the meetings done like more effectively. They were like, yeah, he'll just be more efficient going into these meetings. And I was like, yeah, as we all know, we all think better when we're absolutely dying for a piss. Like that's perfect.
I thought that David Cameron
So
was going to come
stupid, man.
up earlier in this talking about bestiality, but no, we managed
Oh
to bring
yeah.
it in from a different avenue.
Yeah, the pig fucker. I something that you were saying before, I thought was really useful though as well. It's okay to both want sexual release and not to want to go through the rigmarole of caring for your partner. A lot of the time, that's fun. Like that to me, I would argue that this is the highest level of sex in a way. You know, when you're really connecting, you are really caring for each other, but there also is a degree of abandon. But there's a writer called Emily Nagoski who has a book called Come As You Are, and she talks about this kind of dual control system of sex. And she says you have an accelerator and you have brakes. And sometimes the accelerator's really going, but the brakes are also on. And as a result, it might be hard for you to achieve orgasm or keep an erection or just kind of be present in sex. Well, the great thing about masturbation, about using porn, whatever, is that the brakes kind of don't come into it. You know, it's all accelerator because you don't really have to think about somebody else. You don't have to think, oh, how does my body look in this light?
Or
Is
your
this position
hangups,
working for them?
your
That
own
kind of
personal
thing.
hangups are your only breaks.
Yeah.
And if you're sensing those, this is again, we talk about diagnostics on this show. If you're sensing that as part of the diagnostic, this is something you should go in and talk to your therapist about, because you're like, oh,
Hmm.
even when I'm by myself, I seem to have these things go through my head regularly, and it's causing me issues in sort of like sexual fulfillment, sexual enjoyment. I think those are like really useful things to clock around it. You said something there that reminded me, we're about a month past the due date on this brief internet ripple that came through. But someone, I think Cartoons Hate Her, actually, who I adore, and if you haven't encountered her writing, it's pretty fun.
Hmm.
She had something about the undiscussed labor cost of DOMs, and how
Sure.
and how people that are dominant, first of all, there aren't enough of them, and this comes in Ayla's research as well, where they're saying that like there's an unmet need for more DOMs in the world, because there are many more subs and people that are significantly submissive in sexual space, but more about like how much attention you need to pay to your partner when you're being the
Mm.
dominant partner. Like there's a lot of care involved, there's a lot of trying to excite them in ways that are successful, that might be quite different than the normal population or the population you've encountered in the past, and how like there's just a lot of thought that goes into it, and also a lot of
Sure.
flack that comes your way if you get things wrong in that space too. And so so basically it also shows up alongside this thing where you're talking about sometimes solo sex is like as much as you can handle, because it's the thought of someone else and having to care and having to be very, very thoughtful about them, but also, to submerge your own hangups and everything like that. It can be very challenging for some people. Also, the other side of it
Mm.
is like, maybe you're on SSRIs and like you're not going to climax,
Yeah.
and like then your partner feels bad because they feel like you're not sexually attracted to them enough. And there's just a lot that can be in that. So
Hmm.
sex is easy to have when you have someone that's interested and willing, but like there can just be extra things that get included inside of it. And many people, probably the more thinky you are, the more neurotic you show up as, the tougher it can
Hmm.
be for you.
Yeah, and I think another thing that comes up quite a lot in therapy is men who coming in and thinking, oh, maybe I would want to have an open relationship or explore, polyamory, and it's always really funny to me because it seems that a lot of them think this is a way for me to have more sex without thinking about other people. And I think you might need to sit down with some people who actually live a polyamorous life and realize how much fucking time they spend thinking about how to do this responsibly.
People that have high relationship bandwidth, like occasionally will astound me. So
Mm.
one of the friends of the show, Pandora Delaney
Hmm.
on Twitter, and the slut stack is basically like she manages to like wrangle a lot of schedules, and I can't imagine like what her text sort of like volume looks like
Oh,
because
Jesus.
but now she's moved in with a couple of her boyfriends. So, but yes, the concept that you can have more sex without like a lot more communication volume in this poly open space seems basically impossible. And
Mm,
you're fooling yourself as to the requirements of that particular game.
sure. So to go back to porn, I think there can be downsides even of use that is not full blown addiction, right? Like it. I think it's true that some porn does normalize violence and aggression, and it's definitely true that a lot of people feel worse about their own bodies
Mhm.
watching porn. Like this is 100% true. They also feel worse about their partner's bodies. And that's another really common thing that people come into therapy with, where they've developed this idea of especially what the female body should look like, which is very, pumped up and hairless and really kind of I guess pristine in a way. It's like factory fresh, like a sex doll and not like a human body. So I do think so there's something in here about how maybe it can exacerbate people's general intolerance for other people's messiness.
But
And this, I
I
think,
think
is
that we've seen more acceptance of broader bodies than ever before, like largely as a result of OnlyFans,
Mhm.
right? Like, and the fact that like creators now control their own stuff and you get to see creators kind of go through their whole sort of body cycles and everything. I think that like it's less bad than it used to be. You only used to see male fantasies in video like forever, and now that a lot of the people that are directing are women and in control of it, like it is a
Sure.
little bit better off than it's ever been. I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, it's not like you go to
Mm,
the movies and you're like, oh, okay, like this is exactly what my girlfriend needs to look like. I'm sorry that my girlfriend's not
sure.
Anna de Armas, but like unfortunately I've got to keep going until I find someone that looks exactly like her. It's not a realistic perspective on the world. I had actually an interesting experience a while back where a woman went on a couple of dates and she decided to research me a bunch, and I actually am very careful about not doing that to people because I want them to like bring me their story. And so even if you can look them up via their whatever's on their dating stuff, I usually leave it
Mm,
be. But she found my Instagram and she's like, oh, you seem to follow like half of your follows are like really attractive model type people. And I was like, yeah, they are. And she's like, well, do you feel like that's like what you need out of a relationship? I was like, no, I don't. It's like, well, why would you do that? Like, what's the point in actually doing that? It's like, well, back when I was fat and I needed incentive to get thinner, like basically any day that I didn't feel like working out, I would look at the
mm,
people on that Instagram and I would use that as motivation for me to get better and to get fitter because like I wasn't anywhere close to those types of people. And so I wanted to use it to keep pushing on, even when I was tired, even when I was hungover, to be like, oh yeah, I'm not close to that. So like I can keep going. And she's like, that feels like a line. I'm just like, I can't tell you more honestly that that was my motivation for it. Like, it's nice to
mm.
look at beautiful people. We all like to do it, but like, that's the real foundation for it. I totally get that. Like, yes, we get skewed perspectives on what the human body should look like, but there might be reasons that people are looking at it that are, not a reflection of their partners, but more about themselves.
Sure. I mean, I agree with you in some ways. Like, I do think representation is better, but the fact that people's porn consumption is so much higher than it's been in the past, I do think has altered the way people feel about real bodies.
Sure.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I have this conversation with people all the time when there are a lot of people of about my age who love the fact that early 2000s and late 90s fashion has come back. And I fucking despise it because I was like, I'm sorry, but the 90s and the early 2000s were the worst time in human history. I hated it. It was shit. It was a terrible time to be alive. And part of it back then was it was like there's kind of like one version of being hot.
Mhm.
It's like the leggy skinny blonde,
The
or
waif,
whatever. Or like,
the waif
yeah, like
look. Yeah.
this kind of shit. Like things are definitely better, but then I think on the other hand with porn, you see this, for example, when there was a thing with Rachel Zegler last year where people were like looking at pictures of her, zooming in, and they were like, she's actually got some body hair on her back and on her forearms, and suddenly you realize that for some of these people, the only women that they've really seen close up are women in porn who are completely waxed clean. So Yeah, there is that. To me, this is where I worry about some of the advances in sexual technology. And to be clear here, I'm not talking about vibrators, like cock rings, clamps, any of that stuff. Like, I'm talking about like VR porn, stuff that is like disappear into the world of
Hmm.
this particular porn. What do you know about this, Ted? Because I can imagine, I can imagine you taking interest in it.
I know nothing.
Really?
That's not a direction that I've gone at all.
Sure.
I tried some of the male sex toys for a little bit, and what I
Hmm.
found was that they were so desensitizing that even if they were successful briefly, like it was a horrible, horrible addition to my sex life. So
Mm.
I did not need to bring any of those on my own part into a sex life. I do know that two of the women that I've been most attracted to in the last like 20 years were robots or androids at some point. So that's kind of interesting.
What?
Well, you said AI sex bot, and I was thinking I immediately went to Vikander in the movie,
Sure.
which
Ex
extremely
Machina.
yep, and that's Oscar Isaac too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The great Oscar Isaac.
exactly.
The primo hottie in that film.
Not 100. Well, no, but and then you also mentioned it in the preamble or when we were sort of getting ready to record, and I was like, oh, Anna de Armas was an AI in Blade Runner 2049, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. She was, and she was very obedient. See, that's what I don't like.
We got to be careful
I,
when we make the robots disobedient, though,
sure.
because
I do.
bad
I do
things also
understand
happen
that.
there.
But I like to get in trouble. This is the thing.
That's a good point.
Okay. Not like wipe out my species trouble, but like,
Please
a little
continue
bit of
on
trouble.
because I have no idea where this is going.
Okay, so I tried to look into this a bit, and obviously there are a lot of interactive porn games now. So it's you need to manipulate this character to do whatever.
Oh, the
There are
Steam
also.
charts are like insanely
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, crazy. And I've never bought one of those. Like I think Leisure Suit Larry was the only sort of like game that I can remember that I ever played that was like this.
Yeah.
And since that time, I was like, why do I ever need to play this? Like real life is much more interesting.
Yeah, I don't need to see like weird pixelated cone tits or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, so that's one version of it. The interactive games. There's also like VR stuff. So the idea that we can have like augmented reality, like porn, and pure virtual reality porn as well. You can be present with your favorite porn star. You can kind of direct the narrative. You can choose what happens. And some websites I think have been trialing this as well with AI generated porn stars, where it's like someone on the screen and you can just fucking tell them what to do. There are also sex dolls that are incorporating AI, though, as I was saying to you off air, like it's quite hard to determine exactly what the AI does, like with them. They supposedly like learn the sounds you like and what you want them to say, but then that sounds boring to me because if
Make
they said
dolphin
the same
noises.
thing,
Dolphin noises.
that's like a Michael Jackson noise. But like, we should probably stay away from that.
Ow!
But also, if they said the same thing every time, you'd be like, "This is boring. I need you to like, put in a whale noise or something."
Can you do
but they
something
also heat the
subsonic? I want to feel the rumbles in my
Yeah.
hips.
yeah. They heat the vaginas too. I don't think that's AI related, but they just heat the vaginas. And obviously, there's deep fake porn as well. This is the other thing.
Yeah.
So you can feasibly, take pictures of some fucking person that and get like porn generated of that person, which is quite troubling. What do you think about this when I present this smørrebrød, seeing as I've just come back from Copenhagen? When I present you with this, like, what are your initial thoughts?
So I'm sort of a tech practical person who is generally positive about it, but I also am a realist who's willing to admit that like a lot of the current wrongs in the world are at least tech enhanced, if not tech enabled. In particular with this type of stuff, I have real concerns because like it hurts real people, right? And the deepfake stuff is very problematic. But like also just the level of it is a common theme for us and in talking about society's problems right now. Like the gap between interacting with humans and not is getting wider for a lot of people.
Yes.
And this is just making it easier to do that from a sexual perspective, which is one of the drivers that we have to continue as a species and also
Mhm.
to build a more robust, coherent society, which is fraying at the seams right now. I have big concerns about all this. Not to say that like anybody's gonna, put up a stop sign that's gonna stop anyone or make sense of it. But yeah, it's a little scary.
Yeah, it just feels. I completely agree with this. Like, this is the worry for me, that we are going to end up in a situation where people are scared of the dating market because there's so much insane bullshit out there about dating, and they can stay at home and get their cum extracted by the Gluck Gluck 3000, and they don't need to go out there and risk rejection and risk humiliation and shame. And I think that's really sad because, again, it kind of goes back to the thing at the beginning that we were talking about, the right wing commentator idea, which is like, orgasm is solely the point, and an orgasm is an orgasm is an orgasm. Like, so long as you're coming, who cares? And I think, well, these feelings can be greatly enhanced by the feelings of connection with somebody else, and we also need to make some fucking children at some stage. So yeah, to me it's a little bit concerning and it's a little bit demoralizing, but I guess technically it's a tool and it could be used in a perfectly fine way. Not the deep fake stuff, that's just evil.
Right.
But the other stuff can be used in a perfectly acceptable way. Like, I've got no issue with it. And I guess you could argue that your AI, like, porn star on screen, if you're getting her to do what you want, well, you at least kind of know that technically nobody's being exploited, except maybe the people who the AI is fucking trained on. So you can make a case for it, I guess.
I feel unhinged right now, or unmoored, as it were. Like
Mm.
I don't feel attached to anything that I can make sense of here, and be, it might be that I'm old. It might also just be that, like, I like human interaction, and more human interaction just seems inherently good for me. So like
Mm.
the stuff that's taking away from it now, coming full circle on this, like, I think porn is perfectly fine, and
Yeah.
most of you probably have perfectly acceptable relationships to porn. If you're at all concerned, take the survey that Patrick mentioned. But like, also, if somebody's like giving you a hard time about this, push back on it. Like, just feel absolutely comfortable in pushing back. You're like, look, no one's being exploited. I actually pay for my porn, so like the people that
Hmm.
are making money off of it, I'm supporting them and supporting that lifestyle. There are plenty of people that make tons of money off of this. You might not agree with their life choices, but nevertheless, like, they seem to have been very successful, and they've been, willing to take those choices in hand. It's not entirely indifferent to being like a footballer, and that, like, in exchange for fame and some level of online hatred when things go wrong, like, you get paid a lot of money. Like that's kind of the thing where that looks like a gap. Now, it's not directly comparable, but it's not a million miles away from each other. Like, you become famous from being somebody's online fap dream.
Mm.
Like, it is a consequence that you have taken inside of your own hands as a choice there, and then you presumably get rewarded for it. Um, yeah, I think that we need to be comfortable that this is the way the world has gone, and our morals are catching. Well, they're not
Yeah.
even catching up. They're being slowly drugged behind us in many
Yeah.
cases, because religion has made us feel bad about masturbation at all, and made you feel like
Mm.
sexuality can only be discussed in the deepest, darkest confines of, like, someone's private life, and even then, like, you're terrified to do it. When the reality is, porn is front and center, sex is front and center. It's a normal part of society. It has been forever, because that's why we even bother to exist. You literally have to continue
Mm.
to have sex in order to propagate the species. And we should all get a lot more comfortable that this is a regular integrated part of everyone's life, and chill the fuck out about it. Like, appreciate the fact that humans have all these diversities of interests and needs, as long as it's not exploitative or painful for anybody involved. Or if it is painful and they have given active, consistent consent on that, then it's fine.
Agreed. Agreed. And this has been around forever. This has been around forever. The Romans had porn. You can actually see Roman porn. It's not all that, but, like, you can check it out.
Just
It's been
don't
around
don't
forever.
break it.
Yeah, don't break it. All right then. Shall we wrap up then today with a segment that we were talking about?
Yeah.
Because I thought it'd be fun if maybe we tried to bring in a new discovery. that we've made lately. So this could be anything. It could be a new workout regimen. It could be a supplement, clothes, Substack, like whatever excites you. Ted, you've obviously been in COVID fever, but has anything come to you in your lamentations?
So two things. I continue to find it hard to forgive myself for shunting my workout routines sort of into vacation mode. And so like traveling with the kids and being jet lagged across two and then having COVID, like I feel bad about myself for like, not having worked out much, but like I'm also pretty good about like, look, you just need to get sleep. You'll get back to it. It's great. Just before I left, like I was in a really good spot. And so it felt like I'm sort of backsliding from that, but that's totally fine. But the bigger thing that I wanted to mention is I rent cars somewhat regularly because I travel a lot. And
Okay.
sometimes I've been lucky enough to rent like cool cars. Last year when I sold my company, I rented a Bentley Continental convertible to drive around California for 4 days. That fucking thing was
Okay.
a beast, and the engine noise on that was amazing. I didn't expect it to be as much fun, but also they wouldn't let me get the company rental car insurance on that, and so it's a little bit terrifying. It's like, oh, this could go on like, yeah, it could be bad. Be very, very careful when you're driving. Anyway, usually I rent BMWs. And the reason
Okay.
why I do it is because I've had a series of BMWs. I'm comfortable with them. They're fun to drive. I know how they're going to respond. This time, I almost always get an X5 when I've got the kids because it's big enough to handle all of us. We've got enough space, and they didn't have one. They either had an X6, which I knew would not fit our luggage, which was really important because we had a multi-hour drive both ways. And so they gave me a GLE Mercedes. Now, you might think that driving an equivalent Mercedes and BMW is no big deal. And what I've discovered is that the new ways that they've put together cars, especially with the screens and everything,
Yeah.
is completely baffling. And the switches have moved around. And then I was on the other side of the road. So I'm like trying to learn a new thing when things are sort of reversed on the steering wheel. And it was just a nightmare. It was such an overwhelming experience to drive. And I'm sure that the Mercedes is very thoughtful in how it's been
Sure.
put together, but it was very, very different from a BMW experience. And I was like, oh God, I'm too old for this shit. Like it's actually really hard to adapt to new car UIs, especially when things aren't button based as much anymore. They're often menu based, which is also very dangerous for people to have. So that is kind of my realization. Like driving new makes of cars that you're not comfortable with, like it's a big deal and you have to be a little careful.
Oh my god, that kind of makes it sound. I kind of want to see the inside of this Mercedes now. Like, what is different about it? Give me some more detail on what's going on with the screens.
So it's lovely, but the windshield wipers are in a confusing place. Like the button in order to even trigger the spray up top, like is a twofold thing. One, you could just get like a quick windshield wiper thing, and then you have to push it down further in order to spray. It took me a little bit to find that. The volume and the fast forward button, like those should just be on the steering wheel, but I could not find the fast forward button. And in fact, like some of the menu buttons are like moving you around the actual menu on the UI from your steering wheel, but like I shouldn't be
Oh,
looking over
yeah.
there.
What?
It was a lot. And then, it's just, there's some other things that are just different than you're used to. And when you're trying to drive, like driving is sort of autonomic. Like you don't really focus on what you're doing. You're supposed to focus on the road and not dying, especially when you're
Yeah.
driving around LA. Especially when you're
Sure.
driving around LA. So there might have been some added pressure around this. As I said, I'm sure that it is a perfectly sensible design if you've got some exposure to it. I just hadn't had it. And I know BMW for a long time was sort of derided a bit for having this weird wheel and everything. And I've also driven a Land Rover, like an older Land Rover that my wife had that,
Sure.
was its own thing of this is a weird bucket of bolts that someone seemingly is afterthought into the UI space. I feel like that shit needs to be much more normalized. It's really hard to figure out cars these days.
In my mind, if I were driving in California, I would have to drive in one of those little 4x4s, that just has the cage, like no ceiling, no sides. Maybe it's pink. It's just like it's like a Malibu Barbie like beach car. Like that is what I want. And in my mind, I am Patrick Swayze in Point Break.
I feel, yeah, we should make this happen. Different Patrick, absolutely. But no one called him Pat, did they? No.
No, but also Patrick, also a Leo. One of the greats. Okay.
How do you know? How do you know he's a Leo? Why do you care?
Because somebody sent me a thing. This was years ago. Somebody sent me a thing years ago when I was on Football Daily, and they were like, "Oh, you guys on Football Daily, you're on famousbirthdays.com, I think." And then it has at the bottom, it has like, you are the 35th most famous Patrick, or whatever. And then it was like, you are there was something where it was like, you are the third or fourth most famous Patrick who is a Leo. And I looked it up and I was like, who the fuck's number one? It was Patrick Swayze. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, I'll take that L, but I've remembered that to this day. Anyway,
so please tell me your discovery.
Mine is the Runner app. Have you used this?
So,
as I told you like a couple of months ago, I was like, right, I don't have that much time. So to save some time, I'm going to do less gym work and more running. And also I like running and the weather's nice. So why not? And I started and I was like, well, this is fine. But I was just a little bit bored because I was kind of like, I'm running 5Ks, but I'm kind of out of shape. I haven't done this for a while. It's fucking boring. My run every day is just a bit tedious. So I thought, well, I can run a 5K, no problem. So the Runner app, you can set a little goal for your running. Like, it doesn't have to be a time or anything, but you can say, I want to run further. Maybe I want to turn my 5Ks into 10Ks, or I want to train for a half marathon, or I want my 5K to be faster. And so I said, you know what? I want my 5K to be faster because I can see how long it takes me now. And I know where I used to be able to, hit. So I would like to get closer to that. And it devises a plan for you over the course of however many weeks. It asks you how many runs you can do a week and which days you want to do them. And then it gives you what I found to be a pretty smart plan. So it's like, right, okay, this is a hard run and this is an easy run. And there are all sorts of different kinds of runs in there. So, speed plays, like drop sets, all this kind of thing. And I've just found it really enjoyable. Like, it actually makes me more pumped to go for my run because it's not just another 5 kilometers where I just, zone out and listen to a podcast. With this, I'm really focusing and it's making me speed up and slow down. And it gives you cues. So it says, this is your target for this. You need to slow down. You need to speed up. And I found it much easier, generally speaking, until yesterday, where I hadn't been for a run for like a week and I wanted to die. It was I found it much easier to get out the door. It's added a little bit of fun, and I'm looking forward to when I do my race. It doesn't matter that much, but I'm looking forward to doing this race at the end of September, beginning of October, just to see how much time I might have taken off my 5K from before. And I think this is an area where AI is really helpful, right? Like, it has this little thing that constructs the plan for you. And when I went on holiday, I told it I was going on holiday and it recalibrated my plan.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was like, we'll move your race date and we'll change some of your things around a little bit in order to kind of ease you in and ease you out. That was great. And it just gamifies it a bit. And I thought, yeah, this is, as we know, like, gamifying things makes them kind of addictive. But in this area, it just makes me want to do it.
Making exercise addictive is a useful thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're
exactly.
aware of that. I picture this as like a very good use case for AR as well. So you've got your Meta Ray-Bans that you've got you're running in, and you've got your Mario Kart Ghost that is in front of you, and you're like, fuck you, Ghost, I'm gonna beat you today. And so, like, you gradually catch up to the Ghost, and then like it points to the Ghost is behind you, and then occasionally you get a blue shell and you're like, son of a
fall in the river because I run by the river.
Yeah, actually, that sounds great.
My sister-in-law actually was trying to get more active as well, and she signed up for this thing where you walk to Mount Doom. It's like the Lord of the Rings walk, and so it gives you the number of kilometers, and you pay to do it. And at the end, they send you a medal for each stage. It's like, oh, you got to Rivendell or whatever. It sends you a thing, and as a result, she goes out and she's like, right, I want to walk another 5K because I want to get to, I don't know, the fucking river. You know what I mean? Like
You
it's
get like
fun.
Viggo Mortensen and various hobbits sort of cheering you on at different points.
Yeah. That's the perfect case for what you're talking about, right? Where you put on your glasses, you'll be chased by fucking goblins.
Orcs. Ha! Meat's back on the menu,
It'd be
boys.
so good. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the runner app, and I highly recommend it. So I'm trying that at the moment, and I'm really enjoying my running.
Just I'm picturing getting chased by like angry Man United fans after we did some of our preseason stuff.
I don't know if there are any left in London, man.
No, they all jumped off bridges in Grimsby.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Does that wrap us for today?
I think it does. I think we're done. Obviously, do all the things on all the different platforms. We're just here having fun podcasting. So hopefully, you guys and ladies are enjoying it with us as well. See you soon.